Hey, this is WhyBeAre with BeamNG.drive, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Ibishu Hopper, which is the new vehicle that was added in the 0.9 update. We're going to start with the Zzx T6, which is the fastest and most off-road normal version of the vehicle. So there are special editions and custom versions that are more off-roady, but this is one you could go into any Ibishu dealership and buy at any time during its production run, basically. I'm going to start off by just driving it around a bit and doing things like that. So actually, yeah, that's what we're going to mostly be testing right now, is just doing some off-road driving and seeing just how well it performs. Like right here, there's a corner. A normal person would stay on the road. But we're testing off-roading, so we're going to go straight through the dirt like that. And obviously, it can make it through that. That was a pretty smooth area I drove through. I could have made it much harder by trying to go over the rocks, but I didn't feel like doing that. You know what, though? Let's make it hard. Let's fly and see if the suspension can save it. Well, it actually did until it slammed into the boulders and got ruined. And this thing is not going to drive at all because the main engine is broken, but we'll flip it upright so you can at least take a look at it. Gotta do 2 flips on this thing. It was flipped over so hard. And, that looks a little ridiculous just how badly the roof is caved in right there. But that's not a very structural roof, so it will cave in very, 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 very easily. Emphasis on the varies, if you couldn't tell. So here's a fun idea. Can we spawn on the rock and then drive off of it? And the answer is, oh, kind of. Like, we fell off of it more than drove off of it, but the point is we could go and drive. So again, we're just gonna go into the dirt right here and see what happens for the off-roading test. Oh, it's doing great right here until it ended up flipping over. Actually, one thing that's cool about this car is you can do that a lot. There are a lot of situations where if you're on your side, you can get this thing upright. That's one of my favorite things about this car, and I think it's even more so if you get one with locking differentials, because you can kind of unlock and lock the differentials at certain times to really just spin the wheels super hard into the dirt and make it flip over upright. But this one is just a normal differential setup, and it's able to get itself upright, as you saw. And now this has suddenly become more of a crash test than an off-road test. Although I think the rear drive shaft still works, but you need the front one to actually be able to flip this thing right side up. So let's just go ahead and get a fresh one. And this time I'll try to make sure this doesn't become a crash test and it's more of an off-road test. Although we'll be doing both eventually, so in the end, does it really matter? No, not really. But that was actually off-roading at a reasonable speed. Now, no more reasonable speed. We're going fast again. Slow it down just a bit here because it is starting to get a little bit rougher. But you see, vehicle is doing a great job going through this rougher terrain, even at 40 miles per hour or so. And we could go up this hill, which is a really steep hill. Come on. Let's go, let's go. You can do it. I mean, if it gets into first gear, it's pretty much guaranteed, it looks like. But it was really nice when I was flying up that hill with about 30 miles per hour of speed until it got too steep to do that. And we're back on the road, which I probably shouldn't even be doing because I don't really want to be on the road. So I'm trying just to drive right on the edge of the road, but that's a little bit harder than it should be because there isn't really an edge to drive on. So you know what? You know what I was saying about crash testing and not off-road testing? Well, we're crash testing again. I think that actually gave us a nice angle to watch a collision from, and so far, never mind. I was going to say there's no significant damage to the vehicle, and right as I say that, rear drive shaft is broken. See, now right here, we only have the front wheels working, which is enough to kind of spin the car around, as you see here. But I think you need a little bit of help from those rear wheels to consistently flip it upright. Especially when the whole rear body is as bent up as it is. So let's just go ahead and get a fresh one and then drive around a little bit more before we go over all the different versions of the vehicle and all that kind of stuff, because I like starting off the vehicles with something fun, like driving through the terrain like this and crashing up the vehicles before I get to the point where I'm just basically spewing a list of facts at you guys. And this right here, this is a little too easy to be fun, isn't it? Looks like the road gets up high on a cliff though, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the road up that cliff, get a ton of speed there, and then chuck the car off the cliff and see what happens. Or maybe we'll go up the cliff and let it roll down. That might work out. Let's see. Up the cliff and let it roll down. Yeah, that works. So main engine broken. Not going to be driving anywhere, even though it doesn't look that terribly damaged. Like, I have definitely driven cars that look a lot worse than this one. So now let's head back to where we started. And then I could go ahead and give you guys a look at this version of the vehicle, and we'll pull out some of the other ones and compare them up. So we'll do a slow pan to the outside so you can see what that looks like, and then we'll go ahead and pop into the inside as well. Except this pan may be a little bit too slow, but better too slow than too fast, I would assume. So here is the inside. This is the beige interior, I believe. It looks a little bit brownish, but there's a brown that looks even browner, and I'll go ahead and show you a different color of the interior in a second. One thing I really like is just how there's that roll bar on the inside of the vehicle. It kind of feels like you have a roll cage, even though it's not actually a roll cage. But it feels like it when you look at it from that camera angle. And it is back over here to the front. You can see the gauges here are very basic. Same with the controls over there, all very basic. But one thing I really do like are the air vents. They look like fighter pilot crosshairs. So when you're about to crash this thing, you lock onto something with your crosshairs and then you crash into it. Like I am locked onto that rock and boom! Direct hit with my crosshairs. And actually, this thing might still want to drive. I'll give you guys a look at the outside right here. It does still want to drive, but I don't want to drive it at the moment because we're looking at the inside still. And for looking at the inside, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a look at some of the other colors real quick. So we go to frame, body, then we're going to go to interior color. As I said, this is beige. So we'll go ahead and pull out the brown, which is a dark brown. Almost looks black in the darkness over here. And then we'll pull out the one fun color, which is blue. So we get a blue on blue vehicle, if it'll show up. There we go. And you can see it's not a super bright blue like the one we have on the outside, but it's at least something other than gray and brown and black and all kinds of boring colors like that. So since I don't do mini crashes from the interior, let's go ahead and try to do one more. We're just going to dive into here, and I'm probably going to hit a rock or not. Okay. Really? Somehow, I managed to dodge the rocks right there. I don't know how, but that was impressive. And there's a crash, which is mightily unimpressive. So actually, we got over that rock, so keep going. I have no idea how long this interior crash is going to last, but to be honest with you, I don't even have a clue at what's going on anymore. Like, we are just in a pile of dust, and I'm just kicking it up everywhere. I can't really see the mountain to level myself up, so I don't know if this is working, and it did, but we kind of just fell off of a mountain there. So I think that's enough interior driving for now, so let's just go and respawn this. And the main reason I came back to where we started is because I thought it would be fun to try to go over that pile of debris that we climbed at the start with every version of the hopper to give a real quick demonstration of its off-roading capabilities. So we're going to be starting with the XT4, which is the base 4-cylinder version of the vehicle. So the 4-cylinder engine is a 2.5 liter engine that makes 131 horsepower. Now this is a reasonably heavy vehicle, so on a perfectly flat surface, 0 to 60 will take about 10 seconds. So we're on a little bit of an uphill here, so it's not a perfect demonstration, but we're going to see if we can even just get up to 60 miles per hour through these curves right here. Like, this is a reckless disregard for the corners coming up, and we're just going to do our best to accelerate up to 60, flooring it the whole way. Like right here, you can see just how slow it is getting up to 60 with that small incline. We hit 60, and then we could go up this, do a little bit of a flip just to show off. Like, I hit 60 miles per hour. Something pretty much every car driven in America does daily when they go on the freeway. So it still drives, we'll just drive a little bit more so we can get some more wreckage on it. I'm amazed that the back tailgate is hanging on like that. Like, it's hanging on by just one latch. And front drive shaft is broken. That's going to ruin the fun, and you can see we're slowing down a lot and I can't steer. So, new vehicle, and now for the test. Can it climb this? So we're going to do the testing as consistently as possible. We basically butt the vehicle up to the thing like that, and then we just accelerate and see what happens. So with this one, that's as far as it'll get using that strategy. And nothing more is going to happen. So the next version of the vehicle we're going to be taking a look at is the XT6. So it's basically the same version of the vehicle with a 4-liter inline 6 engine. Yeah, it's not a V6 and a V4. V4s are super rare, and V6s are actually pretty common. But this is an inline 6 engine, and the other one had an inline 4 engine. So with this one though, going along these corners, you actually have to slow down a pretty good amount, and it can get up to 60 miles per hour in a very reasonable 7-ish seconds. That's of course on a perfectly flat surface. So we're already up to 60 right here, and almost up to, yes, actually, we are up to 70, and you can see just how much higher we flew into that cliff before we destroyed our vehicle. And it actually got destroyed on the cliff because it hit it with such an impact. I mean, technically, yeah, we can still drive this. I would never drive such a vehicle in real life. It is a death bucket right here, but look, we're up to 60 miles per hour again, just like that. And there's a cliff coming up if I can remain controlling the vehicle. Never mind. I don't think we're going to be able to wait. We can maybe get to the cliff. Let's see. Nah, I can't steer left enough. But we can still do off-roading somehow. Like, that is impressive. This thing just loves to off-road. 3 wheels, can't even steer, and it's going over this at like 30 miles per hour. That is amazing. Do a quick barrel roll just to show off. Well, that wasn't even close to a barrel roll. That was just like a regular 180 half roll. And now we're stuck, so we'll just go ahead and get a new one and do the exact same test we did with the other one. So we're gonna go real slow, stop right in front of it, and then floor it. So this one can actually make it over. So that means basically any version that's this one and above will be able to make it. So there's really no need to actually do that test anymore because it made it so cleanly. It didn't struggle or anything. You just needed the extra power from the inline-6 engine because that's the only difference between this one and the one we were driving previously. Now I'm kind of bored of this location since we don't need that anymore. So let's just go ahead and go somewhere else. We're going to go to East Coast USA, which doesn't have many places where you could do off-roading, but if we start at the farmhouse, there's at least something we can do. And the next version of the Ibishu hopper we're going to be taking a look at is the LX-T4, which is the mid-trim 4-cylinder model with a hardtop and anti-lock brakes. Now the hardtop does look pretty different than the soft top, but it's kind of hard to tell unless you have them side by side. So we're going to do just that. We're going to grab the XT4, which is also the version I'll be comparing this one to. And of course it spawns in the wrong orientation, so let me just do a quick 180 with it so it's lined up the same as the other one, like so. There we go. And then you'll notice that the glass on this one is actually not glass. Like if you look at the reflections, it looks different than the way the glass reflects things. And then if you were to try to grab it and move it around, it is actually flexible. If we go to this one, you can't even grab the glass. Like you look like you might be able to, but if you look closely, the nodes are actually attached to things either in front or behind the glass. There is no way to actually grab a piece of glass. But on this one, you can grab it because it's not actually glass and you could bend it around like this. And then also there's the visual differences up here too. Like it has a more fluid shape on the roof, and then this one it's a real solid shape. And I think there's even a little bit of a difference in the texturing to it, but it's kind of hard to tell without slamming your face into it like what I'm doing right there. So anyways, let's go ahead and just drive this thing around a little bit. So the anti-lock brakes, you either know what those are or you don't. Basically, it makes it where if you slam on the brakes 100%, it'll slow down a little bit faster, but if you're driving like a normal human being, you'll probably almost never notice the difference. This one also has upgraded rear springs. They're a little bit more off-road focused. It's not super off-roady by any means, but it's a little bit more off-roady. And then it has a limited slip differential in it, where the other one just had an open differential. Now I came to this part of the map because it has this area right here, which I thought might be fun to try to drive through with a hopper, and yeah, it's actually stuck. I thought it'd be a cruise basically, but we gotta get a little bit of speed going through here to make sure we don't get stuck, and there we go. As long as we have that little bit of speed, it's pretty much a cruise through. We're actually gonna get to the water in a second, and once that happens, we're basically just gonna be going straight through the river. Like this. Can we get across without flooding the engine? No, we cannot. But if we raised up the car, we probably could. And we can get a raised version, but not quite yet. We'll try it again later, but that's not the next one on the list. And it doesn't make sense to skip around because the next one is super easy to compare. This is basically the exact same version of the car, but this one has the inline-6 engine that I was talking about earlier and different wheels. And then it also has a slightly different suspension setup, I think, and I think it's mostly just to compensate for the different weight distribution you get when you have the inline-6 engine, because it adds 2 more cylinders, and I think the actual cylinders themselves are a little bit bigger. So it's probably going to add like at least 50 more pounds to the front of the car. And that's all I'm going to do there, because overall off-road capabilities are basically the same as the LX-T4 that I was just driving. So the next one up is the Custom, which is pretty cool because it has a lot of differences to it. So the most obvious is there is no roof and there is no roll bar. This is, you roll over it, you're dead. That's just the design. It also has the fenders colored the same as the body. So you'll notice on this one over here, the fenders are blackish gray, and this one, they're whatever color you choose the car in this situation, happened to be green. And on this one, that color interior goes so good with that green. It just looks perfect. Anyways, this one also has running boards right here, which has not been seen on any other version. And then it has yet another different pair of wheels, and I'll get a nice close-up in the sun so you can see those kind of camouflaging in a little bit. But as for actual off-road capabilities, not much different than the one we were just driving. Oh, also this one only has the inline-4 engine. It does not have the inline-6. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did last time. We're going to dump it into the hole in the exact same angle because I don't want to off-road it. Oh, but it didn't flip over. Alright, you could drive a tiny bit. Let's see, can we flood it in this puddle? Nope, not deep enough, or at least not when I hit it like that. I mean, you've seen it get through here before, but we'll do it one more time with this one because it looks so cool as it goes through here. Like, look at me, I'm an off-roading vehicle. And that's entirely my fault that it flipped over because I was trying to make it from a dramatic angle, and that's what happens. Let's see, can we get enough traction here to flip it? No, that rolling, spinning thing to flip upright usually only works when you're in like sand or mud or dirt or something. When you're on hard rocks like this, it doesn't seem like you can really get enough traction easy enough to get moving. The next one we're going to be taking a look at is the Zzx T6, which is the one I was driving at the start of this vehicle, which is the top trim, off-road focused 4-cylinder model with heavy-duty suspension and brakes, the larger tires, front and rear, limited slip differential running boards, and body-colored fender flares, which is just like the fender flares on the Classic. Now, comparing this to the LX-T6, I mean, I basically told you everything you need to know right there, except this one has 6 lug wheels, where the other one only had 5 lug wheels, which isn't totally obvious, and it has a front limited slip differential, where the other one only had it in the rear. All the other changes, though, are basically covered in that sentence, which I was just reading to you. So we could actually go through this time, and I think we can make it all the way through. We're going to try it out now. But I like driving through here with these cars. They feel really good. Like, they're small enough where they can kind of bounce around, but they got enough off-road capabilities to make it through, even if you're driving one of the lower-end ones. You just need to use a little bit of skill and strategy if you're driving a lower-end one. But if you're driving this one, you don't need that much skill and strategy. And then if you drive the other ones, well, you don't need any almost. That right there was lucky, because there was not enough skill and strategy going into that. Oh, we're gonna do it again. So apparently I can drive this thing completely on its side just as good as I can drive it when it's completely level. This is a very versatile vehicle. I wouldn't be surprised if it also drives great upside down, if you turn on reverse gravity, because every vehicle drives great with reverse gravity on. Really, every vehicle does. Alright, so now we're going to make it through the water. We're going to do it a little bit differently because I don't think the ride height is too different. You just have a stronger suspension setup. So we're going to just coast and then floor it. There we go. Now we could have gotten one with a snorkel and made that real easy. But you know, I wanted to see if we could do it like that, and we can. Now we're going to go across the water again. So we just clutch in. Oh, revs too high and this water's way deeper. We are going to not... What? Engine drying from water? How is it drying? What just happened? I was completely submerged, it looked like. Huh. Is this the vehicle? Something went wrong with the vehicle? What? Now I'm drowning? Okay. I am a little bit confused how the vehicle can drive perfectly right there. I'm actually wondering if this is the map or if this is the vehicle. So to test this real quickly, I'm going to just grab a D series and see what happens here. Because that's interesting. So like right about here. Huh. The D series is drowning just like you would think. Then we're going to go back to the Zzx T6 hopper, and is it going to drown again? Okay, so it is right here. So somehow I damaged the vehicle in a way where whatever is used to detect that the vehicle is underwater, it was nowhere near where it was supposed to be. That is interesting. And that's where I'm going to leave that one. Because we're going to go and change to another one over here. We're going to get the Dune Edition, which is a special edition with desert appearance and off-road tires. Now, comparing this again to the one we were just driving, it's very, very similar. The only difference is it doesn't have the extra piece of trim on the side that this one has, which you can't see when it's underwater. So we'll bring it back home, and then we go over here, and you can see there is that piece of trim that bulges out a little bit. This one, it is just smooth. Also, the soft top, again. One thing that's interesting about the soft top is the door is actually like a half door, so you could tear off the top half of this, just like that. And you could actually also take it off in the parts menu, but you can do it like that, which is the fun way. If you have the hard top, though, the door is all one solid piece, I think, and you can't do that. Although, maybe you'd be able to mix and match. I never actually tried that. Also, though, when you get the soft top, the door color matches, which looks pretty cool, versus having it mismatched. I am curious, though, if we go to one with a hard top, can we put those other doors on it or not? I'm pretty sure we can, but I gotta make sure. Yes, we can. So right here, we could do the half door, and then we could say no window. Or, they don't even call it a window, they call it a door cover. And there you go. You can see straight into the vehicle, and if it rains, your vehicle gets soaked as well. Okay, so back to the Dune Edition. We're going to swap it for something different. We're going to put the Sports Special out, which is a special edition with off-road tires and a factory stripe. Now, both the Dune and the Sports Special are really not that different from the Zzx T6. So this one just has soft top roof, and then it has a no trim again, but it has a little extra stripe down there. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same as the Dune Edition. So we're just going to be done with that already, and we're going to go to the off-road, which is a customized off-road variant with lifted springs, removed sway bars, and 29-inch tires. Now, up until now, all these versions are one you would find in a showroom. Even the Classic, because it says it's a tribute to a classic military vehicle, which to me sounds like it's at least stock. It's not like a modified version, or maybe it is. It doesn't exactly specify. But either way, this one is not a stock vehicle. Ooh, that color scheme looked good. It also looks good on this one, but the stripe looked unexpectedly good. So now this one, it goes a little bit crazy with all the extra things. So it has those regular colored fenders again, which tells you maybe what version of the vehicle is based off of. No running board on this one. And it has the crazy decal. And it has a high performance radiator because apparently the other one was overheated enough where the owner's like, let me get a better radiator in this thing. Even though so far from my driving, it's been perfectly fine. Oh, with the save, the double save. Not only did I almost flip, I almost crashed into the tree, but look at that. I just barely didn't. If I turn the wheel a little bit, it actually touches it. That was amazing, and I totally lost my train of thought. Talking about the radiator, right? So anyways, yeah, it has better radiator. It also has a snorkel, which you can see right there. It's not one of the extendable snorkels, which only exists in mods anyways. It has different wheels on it, and you can see what the wheel looks like just based on the one on the back right there. So I don't even need to stop. It's got lifted springs, so it sits higher, and it got no sway bars, which is probably part of the reason why it's so awful to drive on regular roads like this. Also, even though it looked like I didn't crash, something got damaged, which kind of sucks. Now, one of the fun things about this one is you can lock the differentials, which is now useless because the front drive shaft is now broken. So let's just get a new one real quickly and then find somewhere we could actually show off the locked differentials. And with this thing's already pretty decent off-road capabilities, I don't know if I'll find a good place for this. So I'm just going to drive around for a bit, see if I can find like something to get stuck in. Like this ditch maybe could work if I can get really awkwardly placed in it. Nah, not deep enough. We need something bigger than that ditch to actually get stuck in, and then the lock differentials could pull you out of it. Basically, though, you could just think of the lock differentials as give me more grip in off-road situations where my wheels are off the ground. That is kind of just a simplified way of thinking about it. I was going to go into the river and see if I saw anything under there that was all bumpy, but that's actually pretty smooth, so that's not going to work. But what we could do is, since we have the snorkel, is we could just drive pretty submerged if we wanted to, like this. Snorkel's above water, so we don't have nothing to worry about. Well, a little bit underwater there. I mean, it's not good to be putting water in your engine even though it dries up. But yeah, that's kind of neat to be able to do that. Super submerge in the car and it just drives along. Maybe right here we could do something though, like kind of like... Alright, that works. So like right here, you don't have enough traction to get up here. You see the tires are just spinning, and that tire right there closest to the camera is not rotating at all. So all the power is going to that tire right there, which is doing absolutely nothing, as you see, right? Except tipping the car over because I wasn't paying attention to what the car was doing and I was just talking to you guys. So if you go over here and lock the differentials and try that same thing, you'll see that it should be able to go up that real easy. I'm going to try to make sure it's at the same angle even. Maybe not real easy, but it'll actually make it up. Yep, see, it made it up. You can see all that extra traction as that car flipped over. Totally a good use of my extra traction, wasn't it? So anyways, we'll just park this right here, go back to this one, and then we'll swap it out for a different one. So now we're going to go to the last one, which is the custom. Which isn't more off-roady really than the off-road too much, it feels like, but technically it is. It's kind of like the off-road one is already so good, there are very few situations where I need the extra capabilities of this one. So sadly, it does not have the awesome paint job, and it doesn't even have bumpers and fenders. Those have all been removed for maximum off-road capabilities. Spare tire, removed. Normal suspension, completely replaced with real off-road suspension parts. And then it has different wheels on it that are even beefier. So right here, we'll try doing something where we kind of hop around maybe on some bumps and see if we can show off how good the suspension is at coping with hard hits like that. Like right there, just bounced it and keep on driving. No damage. If we did that with one of the regular production versions of the vehicle, probably would have some damage. Not too hard of an impact right there, it looked like, but still another impact to test it out. Alright, if we can fly off of this, this should be a good impact right here. Here we go. That's a hard one. It's broken. And we're also in a tree. So let's just go ahead and pop over to grid map though, so we can actually do a little bit of real off-road testing with this thing, I think. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to maps and grid map, not grid small up here. And for the off-road testing, I'm just going to go ahead and grab the custom version, and we're going to drive it right over the most difficult section of terrain over here on grid map, and we will have no issues at all. At least that's what I hope. We'll have a couple issues getting there because this thing is not stable on the streets. Like, if I drove this on the freeway, I would flip it over within a week in real life. So going through this like this, yeah, no problem. Take it nice and slow, but I don't even have to think about which direction I'm going. I just kind of tap the throttle when we slow down a little bit, and we go. And that's without the locked differentials even. I didn't even get the maximum capabilities of this thing, and it's just cruising through. And we could try this again with the off-road version and see if you can kind of see a difference between the two. So again, no locking on the differentials, no low gear, which is an option on this version of the vehicle. Everyone that has this piece down here has the option to go low or high range box. I've been just using high the whole time, and I forgot to mention which ones have that and which ones don't. Forgot to think about that. So actually, you can see this one is struggling a little bit more because it has a little bit less ground clearance, so there'll be times where it just doesn't have the traction of the other one. And then also the tires are a little bit a little bit less beefy, so they're not able to climb up the rocks when they slams into them as fast as the other one, but it got through it. Just a little bit more effort involved. So now we can go ahead and just try to wreck this thing up a little bit, and then we could test it out in Brutal Slope and Leap of Death and see how it does there. That was actually a pretty harsh impact, but no breakages. So we got engine good, and both transfer cases were good until I ruined them. And I really did not need to respawn the vehicle. I don't know why I did, just kind of out of habit, I guess. So anyways, first up, we're going to go to Brutal Slope. And then we got to replace the truck with the hopper. And for the hopper, I'm going to use the Sport Special. It doesn't actually matter. Like, it sounds like, oh, it's the Sport, it's going to be faster down the hill. It's really not. I just didn't want to choose the off-road versions because they sit up a little bit higher. So their center of gravity is higher, and it makes them harder to control at high speeds. This one's probably going to be easy enough to control at high speeds while also having a higher version of the engine. So here we go, 150, 60, yep, we're accelerating perfectly fine right here. And just for fun, let's see if I could do a partial impact on this one. It's not easy to do when you're moving at these speeds, but basically you go up to the wall and then you try to hit it right on the edge. It's going to be close to it. Nah, not going to happen. It is right on the edge, but it's not going to do a partial. You just can't steer enough when you're going that fast. So there goes the whole car, just crumpled to bits. You can see the soft roof has flown off. I will point out that the hard one would have flown off as well. It's not really like a structural unit to the vehicle. Like, it'll fall off and crush to bits just like the soft. So now we're going to go ahead and go to Leap of Death and do the same thing, and I'll grab a hardtop for that one. Well, this isn't actually Leap of Death now, is it? I think the update somehow broke this map. I think also it's probably going to be an easy-ish fix where even I could do it if I really felt like it, and I might if the original author doesn't seem to do it with a few weeks from now or something like that. But for now, I'm going to have to end the video on a bright pink screen. So until next time, this is WhyBeAre. I'll see ya.